Background.
Kevin, you
Yeah. Polish the spot for it.
All right, you should be live.
Hi Scott, hi Kyle. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
There we go.
Just, I guess, to recap and some background and overview. We have the capital project. We've got some boards that BCA put together for us that we have on display at the entrance of middle school and high school. At this point, the project scope has included everything that we've talked about. We have not cut back the scope at all, and it also includes flood mitigation. The funding sources that have been talked about between state aid and outside grant and
Debt service.
debt service, thank you, that's currently in the budget, cover the cost of the project. We have put information out on the website. The capital project newsletter is being mailed today. We've also put in a reminder out on the website. We have yet to have anyone sign up to attend the forum via Zoom or in person, and also no questions have been submitted.
Yep. And up to date, we've got the video. We had reporter article in this week. Social media blast went yesterday again, as a reminder. Newsletter is being mailed today. So it isn't like we're not
Putting it out there.
pushing.
So if we do get nobody that does sign up, are we still gonna post them though, because we are allowing people to come in at a certain number?
They still have to register to come in either way.
Okay,
We'll have to consider, we still may want to do the presentation to stream it and put it out as a video. Because there may be, it may
Because
be
the
worth
next
it.
time
Some
we have-
people may not register and are just waiting to stream it. We wouldn't know that population.
or also if, and then they come to the next one with the questions, even though it's the same streaming, they may come
Yeah,
the next
who
time.
knows?
so.
So it may be worth going ahead no matter what. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think no matter what the responses are, we go ahead with both. That way you did your best to make sure the information's out there no matter what.
And the video had over 3,000 people viewed it.
That's good.
So it may be that we're really getting a good response and a good viewership too.
So that kind of gives you the background. Scott has prepared a PowerPoint presentation for the public forum, and we were gonna go over that. I don't know, Scott, if you can share that on your screen?
I should be able to. Hang on just a second.
We do have 2 more boards of these. We've had 4. So I don't know if there's any thoughts of any other location,
Walton Big M.
you know, if we wanted to reach out and,
Yes,
you know, see if there's any place high traffic to put those 2 boards, we could.
you think in local business, because Big M would be,
We've
Great,
got them, they're
right.
sitting in my office. They don't have to be sitting in my office, you know, they can go somewhere else.
Just trying to think of anything that's not really, you know, there people are still going to no matter what. And that's, you know, your local supermarket for sure.
Right.
Yep. Could ask. That's
Supermarket and gas stations.
What's that?
We have one in Townsend.
We do not have one in Townsend yet.
School? Oh, I thought we took.
Not yet.
Yeah, we have one there.
No, that's where this one will go. I just have it in, I brought it in here for our community meeting. But this one will go to Townsend, then we still got the 2 in my office. So we'll have one at the entrance here, one over there, and 2 that we can
I
put up.
definitely think Big M, asking Jim Gross.
Is that working for you, Scott, or do you need us to share
Can you see it?
it? No.
Oh, it looks like on my screen you can see it. Hang on here. I did.
Board members?
Oh, hold on.
How's that?
There you go.
All right.
I figured on it. At least I did. I figured it would probably be
Yeah.
good to have at least this committee. And
Yeah.
I believe some of the other members, I don't want to speak for them, but the impression I got was some of the other members were going to be in the audience, just so that
Right.
the board is represented during the,
So the way we envisioned the presentation here is Mike would start off, welcome everybody. Scott, you want to go ahead to the next slide? Introduce the facility committee members and those that have participated in the project, as well as Scott from BCA. Yeah, you can go ahead. And then we were gonna have Mike kind of go over some history of the process that we took to get to this vote in the capital project. He may ask some of us to chime in as we were here for the whole process and, you know, he just came in July and got quickly up to speed. So he may tag some of us to.
So, right, so my thought is the answering the why, you know, that the timing of this, I can easily talk to that. But for clarity and to acknowledge the fact that I came in July, the planning was done, to be able to hand it over to somebody else on the facilities committee to talk about, we started planning this, we looked at the, you know, the building condition survey, started this a year and a half ago, boom, 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 unless we don't feel that that's necessary. I'm just thinking of the community, they may, you know, I wasn't here until July. I can easily explain the why, but the planning concept of it, if we want to touch on that, I don't think I should be the one talking about what's happened before I got here.
So Kevin, I think we could easily talk about how the building condition survey started out with a project of like 21 million and change. And then we've really pared it back and scaled it down to what is actually necessary for the district. And most importantly, how do we make this profitable from not only the energy savings component, but talk about the studies that went in. CWC paid for the flood mitigation study that didn't cost the district anything. That led to the design of this aspect. John worked with outside and Meg worked with outside consultants to do the energy savings portion of it to get the energy survey done. That brought that component to it. We can talk about the finances as far as what the finance people looked at, the debt service falling off, things like that. Kind of just bring those pieces in and show that we started with a huge project and we really looked at conditions in Townsend. We thought the floor, the bounce on the floor was an issue. And we've done a lot of work in the last 3 years to pare this and scale this down to what do we really need and to make our facilities whole as both all three campuses. And what do we do to make it not only that, but more like profitable and save money on the energy side of things at the same time. I think we could lay that story out pretty easily. And then the parking lots, I mean, they speak for themselves, but I mean, I don't know when the last time those things were actually touched upon, but I don't mind talking about roofs and flood part of things, but I think we could probably break it up and have people look at it from a different angle or just kind of get their expertise in certain areas, talk about the curbs, paving, things like that.
I guess the only thing that I'm not,
We do have, just to jump in real quick, the next slide kind of talks about what we narrowed it down to. So I think we'll have to just think about what the transition is between this slide, which this was kind of like, I think, this is what we're going to talk about. You know, it's kind of an agenda for the presentation. And then this slide gets into, these are the things that we decided to do, but I'm wondering if this slide should be up when people are talking about the various pieces.
so why don't we run through the presentation, then discuss how we're going to know what.
Okay.
And just,
Yep.
So this, I'll just run through it real quick if you want me to, Meg, and just show each slide. So this slide talks about the things that really we honed down to the major components. The next slide is the aerial showing, you know, this is what we've come up with for a concept for parking and also for the roof work, etc. Then it goes into the costs. So high school, middle school costs, Townsend costs, and then a summary of the entire project together. The next slide talks about the sources of funding. And then it goes into schedule. So it talks about sort of this is sort of the process, and we've been through quite a few of these pieces. So we have them marked as complete, and then we show the public referendum. And then this slide and then we also talk about what the design phase would be and how Townsend would probably be an earlier submission to the state. The next talks about bidding for the Townsend work, the flood mitigation work, and then bidding for all of the rest of the project, when that would happen. And then the final schedule slide says, here's when construction would be for Townsend, which would really be summer of 2021. And construction for the remainder of the project would be late spring through fall of 2022. And then just where the voting location is, kind of a wrap up, and then a thank you. So, and that opens it up for questions. So,
Scott review the schedule.
So what I could do is refine the introduction with what Scott just mentioned. My introduction and the why could be more of a overview, more of a higher, Sky, stay out of the weeds, so to speak. Move to that next slide and talk about how we got here. So Scott, go back one slide. I think, and my thought is why it needs to be done, how we got here, why it needs to be done. I almost don't think we need the 3 bullets. Why is the district considering a capital project? And just let me talk about it. And then the next slide, we'll kick it to whoever wants to talk about the timeline and what we're doing, how we got here. 2015 began reviewing. Then go to the next slide, Scott.
Or do we add a slide that says, so like if you said, okay, why are we considering a capital project at this time? And maybe if there's any particular things that you want to mention or bullet points that might make sense there, we have that. And then we add maybe there's a new slide that goes, how did we decide what we were going to do? Like a question. And that would allow people to speak to all the issues that Graydon was talking about. And then we can say, and then we honed it down to, these categories. So I'm almost thinking there's an intermediate slide that's missing.
Or maybe, maybe we don't have to tell them all that much of the background story and just get right to this is what we need to do.
Kind of what I'm wondering is, I guess, I don't mind us participating.
Yep.
But I want to be careful that we don't indirectly project an image to the taxpayers that the board's running the school.
Sure.
So I'd like to have our officials do the bulk of it on our engineering. What I was just thinking through all that is if we went down through and then when it got into questions and answers, if something come up that's not necessarily in their house, they got into more technicalities. If somebody was there and they really wanted to start driving on a technicality, then to be able to step in with the deferred to help with that. I mean, I'm just,
so
again,
We definitely don't want to portray like we've led this whole process. But on the other hand, our public is depending on us as a committee to steer that process. And I think that we've done a really good job of getting this thing down to, this is bare bones, this is what we need to do and how. I don't care who delivers that or how. I think maybe if we hold the questions at the end, if they ask something very specific on those things, we can go through that. Maybe the more streamlined it is, maybe the better.
So
just
getting people lost either in complete fine details unless certain people want to know that, but keeping the key points and where we're going. You get what I'm saying? You'll lose people.
Oh, yeah.
The more you talk about the logistics of the things like that, when you got to keep the key points up there, like Kevin said, if they start honing in on questions and that's your specialty, then by all means, continue to answer that question.
That's got to be a Q&A
Yeah.
once this is wrapped.
right.
So in my mind, Scott, this is, answering the why. We can say why. We don't need to have that sentence in there. We don't need to have these bullets. I think it needs to be planning, the planning phase. And then we can, underneath that, hit. You understand what I'm saying? Right now,
Yeah, I'm wondering if we, instead of these 3 bullets, we say something like 2015 building condition survey is 1 bullet. you know, and that says, well, we review, because I hear what you're both saying about, what you're all saying about, you don't want to get too much into the weeds and talk about the past, but I do think it is important to let them know, let the public know that you have been considering this and talking about the most important things, you know, trying to narrow this down to the critical items that need to be done at this time. And it has been a long process. This isn't something where you've just rushed through it and said, this is what we're going to do.
I think the dollar figure on the 2015 would be eye-opening to people. I think it would catch their attention to realize that, you know, this has been prioritized from a much larger list through analysis, by the way. I would also, my personal opinion with data is I would throw that in there, is that through the analysis of the floors at Townsend, through the flood analysis, through the roof analysis, through the energy savings analysis, all of these have led us to the point of what is actually critical. And, you know, it's less than a half, it's not quite a third, maybe a quarter of what we started at as number one, you know, as priorities. And I think that if you keep it at that, I think that would be enough information for them to understand that.
It wasn't just us
yeah,
deciding.
we didn't just go through this thing nilly-willy. Everybody had a piece of it and everybody got to do the analysis that brought us to the good conclusions.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to keep in mind that the other 13 million is not unnecessary. It's
Right.
just that we took the most immediate needs and matched it with the funding we had available now to develop a project to address.
One of the things we talked about a lot, this was going back probably a year or more, is we were trying to focus in on what are the critical sort of building envelope issues. Because if you don't keep your building dry, if you don't keep your building, you know, secure from an outside standpoint, you know, all the other things inside the building don't really matter. So that's where we started looking at the roofs. If you can't drive through to the facility, that's why we started looking at the parking lots, you know. So there was a lot of talk about that to try to, you know, I don't think we want to leave the impression that this is it, you're done for the next 20 years either. You know, unless you want to, but I don't think you want to do that. I think you want to say, we picked these things through a lot of careful analysis, we picked these things and here's why we did it. And, you know, I think that's important to say.
So the bullet one, you're talking about the past and how much money was needed in 2015. The second bullet's talking about what you did and what you prioritized. Maybe there's another smaller bullet under that, or you talk about safety, maintenance, energy, you know, just the big bullet points of what you guys came down to and agreed on as a committee. I think it's important to explain to the community what you looked at to pare it down. And then the last bullet is just 2020 capital project maybe, and then you just move in.
So your focus would be on the critical infrastructure, right?
Yeah, so infrastructure, safety, energy savings.
So remember what our audience is here. So wouldn't it, I mean, I'm the one who's going to say it. So whatever's on that screen, I'm going to say whatever I'm going to say anyway. I'll be honest with you. That's our
Right.
work. It's whatever
Yep.
comes here.
Yep.
And in my mind, as I'm sitting here listening and looking at it, when I'm talking to them, I'm talking to our community. I'm going to say the prioritization of this committee was focused on safety and determining a prioritization off the condition survey that with safety and fiscal responsibility in mind. So it was focused on roofs, focused on pavement, focused on flood mitigation, focused on energy savings.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Prior to COVID,
That's
yeah,
it.
I remember we were hammering on safety because of the
Right.
school shootings, the access points. You know, that was what was ramping up, changing door locks.
Right.
That's where our
So-
mindsets were. for
So I
a long
mean,
time.
you don't have to put those words there. You can capture these words in more of whatever appropriate words that we want on the screen. That's a visual. My verbal is going to be my verbal.
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't be reading what's on the screen. you know, these are just the bullet points. Yep. Trying to give the sense, right?
So I just wanted to say that out loud, because in my mind, as I'm looking at this, as I'm talking about this, I'm gonna say, you know, the facility committee began looking at this strongly in 2015 with the building condition survey and focused on the priorities of. All of that involved with the fiscal responsibility and how we could fund this within our community at the least level of tax impact. And we're able to do that, as you will see later in the presentation, at a zero increase in our tax impact. Something like, I don't know what's gonna come out, but
I
something
think
similar.
I think writing it on here is important as well. I mean, from my experience with local newspapers, they ask for the handout. All
Sure,
right.
that's what I'm saying.
They tape
We need to on there.
Yeah. So if, you know, if they're going to go back and write a story after this, they're going to say they're focusing on critical infrastructure safety, energy savings, and fiscal responsibility.
So here's something to think about too. Do we start the presentation off with the video? There may be people who are showing up here who don't have internet access. See at the Walton Reporter. Do we start with the 4-minute video and then lead into the presentation?
I think so, because it shows a lot of points, like that roof leaking, the parking lots. I mean, those
Right.
were all very
I
good
don't think that's
points.
a bad idea. That's a good idea. That, if
Are you
anything-
worried about people who come late or can't get on in time to see that video and they miss the first 4 minutes?
We can end with the video too. I mean, we can, you know what I'm saying? We could begin with the video, we could get done with our questions and answer, and we can say, you know,
Right.
prior to us leaving, in case somebody came on late or didn't exit, we're gonna go ahead and play the video on our exit.
Or, you know what I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just thinking that as you were saying that, how that video is so strong that, you know, we have this visual and I'm wondering, like, maybe we talk about that, but we say, this does not really show you, you know, this image does not convey what we're really trying to say. Our video shows you what we're really trying to do, and you insert it kind of in the middle. Maybe, yeah.
Could pause right there and show the video. We do the lead in, the intro, the
Yep.
lead in of the why, and hit the video that really is gonna talk about the aspects of the project very, very well.
And
Do you
then,
want it
and then
between
you go
slide
into
3
the
and 4?
financial. Yeah. What's that?
Does it make sense to put that video between slide 3 and 4? You know, because you talk a lot about why you're doing the work in the video in 3. You know, you
Correct.
talk about what you're doing and then hit that video and then talk about the project.
Yeah, you could. You could.
Yep.
Switching around.
You know, because that's really telling people why you're doing the project. Your video is great, really focusing on what's needed. And then play it at the end, like you said.
And it's
Yeah,
only,
I like it there. I like it right after this, I think. You know, you do that and because you could say, Mike, that, you know, here, whatever you're going to say, and then you could say, you know, I can tell you all this, but our video shows, you know,
Yeah.
what we're trying to look at, and what we're focusing on.
Yep.
And, yeah, I like that.
and then we can streamline it from there. We'll be able to actually we have to talk about it as much as we can get into the finances, into the schedule, timeline, get right into the Q&A.
And remind when the voting is,
Yep.
as an exit type thing.
And a big point.
So you're on this slide, and then you go to the video, and then you come back, and then you hit on, here's the major components.
Mhm.
That we've narrowed it down to.
Yep.
You could say, we've even gone so far as really trying to look at schematically how the parking lots could work and how the bus would be separated from the parking and the parent drop off.
I think we can leave that for the Q&A. We let the video speak to that and then answer questions if they have it. I don't think we have to get down to the weeds about the design. Anybody else disagree with that?
See how the first one goes. If it becomes a lot of questions on it,
Then
then the second meeting, we do more in depth, go
Yeah.
over the presentation.
Agreed.
I'm kind of with Miranda, there's times that you can get lost and stuff, and if you don't understand everything that's being discussed, there's enough verbiage that can be thrown out there, you can get buried in a hurry. To where somebody that does it is gonna be able to keep up and not have a problem, so. And majority of our people that we want to vote yes on this, don't do this for a living. I mean, so they're gonna,
So
and I
if they
think
want
keep
the
it simple.
specific, then that's when, your expertise comes in. I mean, we've talked a lot about people in it down because a lot of people understand. And then when I came into the committee and was kind of lost and trying to understand and still trying to understand the verbiage of it, where you guys have plenty of experience, Meg has, and I'm still, but these are clearer points. That's what I take it as one of the taxpayers watching it. And so if I said, or in the design, well, how are that, and that, like you said, the video hits really good points of stuff like that. And it's easy, very easy to get lost in big words and words people don't understand.
If people come out of this, if people come out of this with just that video and no tax impact, I mean, that's a win, right?
Well, and that's the thing. And I think we got to remember what the purpose of the forum is. We've got the video out, we've got the website out, we've got an enrollment reporter article out, we've got a newsletter going to every home. The forum isn't as much about putting the material in front of people as we've had for other mediums. It's about an opportunity for Q&A, right? So if we stay focused on that and quickly go through the information that they've already had, for some people 4 different ways by the time we have the first meeting, and make sure that we, save the majority of this to answer whatever the questions are. We'll capture the questions afterwards. We'll capture them, put them on a written Q&A, put that on the website. So every question that comes in, we'll answer and go from there. That's my thought, is we'll make sure to remember the purpose of the forum is not a chance for us to put the information out a 5th different way, but for us to give a chance for people to ask questions, right?
One thing I was thinking as we were all talking is that, listing the items, some people are visual learners too, so they'll be really appealed to the video. If this slide just shows, this could be a 15-second touch and say, everything in orange here, that's the amount of roof we're talking about. So it's a large portion of our roof that we're doing. And you can see we're addressing virtually all of the parking lots and paving on the entire site. Boom, you're done. You move to the next slide.
Yep.
Because some people will see that image and they'll remember that. Other people are better with the words. So, but that would be a quick way to run through it. And then you go right into your capital project, costs, breaking down those pieces. And we've got, the high school, middle school, Townsend. So I guess Meg, you'll do these 3 slides you'll be discussing, correct?
Yeah.
And actually that one too.
Right. I don't know if we need a slide for it, but I think it's important to touch on, because it's included in the proposition, the 500,000 from the capital reserve. So it's not reflected here, but it's in the proposition. So I think it's important to explain to people that that's in there, should we need it.
As a safety net.
If we, if something changes with state aid, or if bids come in higher than anticipated, or grants are less than anticipated, things like that, that allows us to make adjustments as necessary. I just think that because it's in the proposition, it should be addressed here somehow.
Agreed.
Right.
Yep.
And for me, my take on it here locally is keep it simple and keep it clear. Because I think that was some of the problems we've had in the past, was it wasn't perfectly clear and it wasn't simple to understand. There's a lot of questions that weren't answered. So if you keep it simple and clear and not get too depth, we'll be willing to answer the questions, but don't.
Yep. Can you back up one slide, Scott? Okay, so some of the things you're going to get questioned on is the incidental. People aren't going to understand that.
We have a breakdown.
Yeah.
Scott put together this breakdown for us, breaking down incidental costs, and as Scott, explained to us, these are estimates based on what they typically see in a project. A lot of these costs have not been contracted yet, or, we don't have definitive prices on that, but it basically gives you a rough estimate of how that 1.2 million breaks down between like architect fees and insurance and
Mike,
things like that.
yeah, and I don't think we include any of this in a slide or anything like that, but what my point was, somebody's gonna have to be able to talk to that, because I think you're gonna get, you have 1.3 incident, like the word incidental.
And I
makes
think if,
people go,
my thought is if that question comes up, that's a question that Scott can answer in the question and answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's come, almost every presentation that I've ever done where we're going over these costs, somebody asks what's involved in the incidental costs, and that's where you explain what it is, because there's a lot of things that are in there. There's, besides the professional service fees, you also got all your testing fees and your printing and utilities and insurances and legal, and and these are categories that the state breaks the project down into. So the other thing that's a little bit, I wouldn't want to go into the weeds on this in public, is the incidental costs for this project. There's actually 2 incidental costs, because you actually have the flood mitigation project that has its own set of costs. And then you have the rest of the project that has its own set of costs. So it's actually when Meg asked me yesterday to give some background on the incidental costs, I said, sure, this will be easy. I'll go into it. Then I started looking at it and I said, well, wait a minute. It really needs to be broken down. Townsend flood mitigation really needs to be broken out, because you've already paid the bulk of the design service fees on that project. So, you don't want to confuse it with the other one. So.
which it wouldn't be hard to make sure we give credit to Casco Watershed Corporation to say they funded that first design for that flood mitigation, wholly. That
Right.
was just reinforce, we've had articles on that and stuff, but, we can reinforce that we've done this as physically, I want to say as cheap as possible by using outside resources.
Fiscally responsible.
Yeah. I was almost gonna say stingy, because we've been very, very tight with
And I'm
taxpayers' dollars with it.
curious, because that was such a while ago, that was like when I first came on, is that something that we can get pulled back up onto our website just for a time being throughout this and there? That when they did the paper with I'm just saying in part of that.
We can
I think
have
it's
that
a key,
added
man.
to our, we can have that added
Just
to
because it's a reminder, it's been quite a while since we announced that, and, since you did that, and I think having that under there isn't gonna hurt anything but help.
Am I right in assuming that, you said there was an article, so I'm assuming that we did some media on that ourselves?
Correct.
Yes.
I'll have
Lillian
PJ
Brown,
pull that into the project page.
I believe Lillian Brown did an on-site interview with Larry at the time and myself, I think, and walked through that.
And you're out in front. This was
Yeah,
very plus,
absolutely.
and that's what I just
But I
think,
just thought if a Q&A happened, I just thought it'd be
Right.
nice to have.
but also bringing that back in, because that now takes a big part of what is really happening. And it was such a while ago that people read that.
I wonder if people will also probably, or may have a question about on this slide, what the other funding sources are.
And at this point, I think I would just, I'm not going to speak for Meg, but I think what we would say is that we've applied for outside funding sources, and that represent the 8%.
And the reporter hits on that outside grant. The report, I don't know if you've seen the reporter article. She did a nice job on it.
I saw it today, it was nice.
We're changing out the image on the webpage. It should have been done today to this. So that when you go to the page, it's got all those.
Around that board.
I believe that was done when I looked today.
Yeah, PJ did it. So Rhonda went to the website to show a taxpayer the website. They were asking about the construction project, and it was the image in it. You couldn't readily see the funding and the no tax impact and stuff. So she gave me a heads up on it. So we switched it out right away. So we have that image up there. So
Well, it's definitely all over now, I feel like, with if the flyer went out today and, you know, that, I think you're on the right track with the Q&A, given the oversight, but
Newsletter will hit midnight Friday to the website. When they give it time for it to be mailed, so kind of hit same type. Some people receive it Saturday. Tuesday, we'll do another social media blast regarding the forums. And then the next Tuesday, we'll do another social media blast regarding the forums. So we figure we'll just keep it rolling, you know, and obviously we're not gonna turn anybody away if they come in and there's room and we're not at the DOH capacity. Of course, we're gonna take anybody who comes in the door. If they don't pre-register, but they run the risk if we have 50 and we total, including us, then we won't be able to let people in. So hopefully it will be that.
So are we good on the forum?
Yeah.
All set?
Yep.
We'll keep an eye out for people registering and submitting questions and be sure we review those before the 15th.
Does anybody have any questions about the schedule at all? Just internally?
No.
Okay. Is there a street address for the bus garage, or if I just say Delaware Street, that's okay?
Yeah, that'll be okay. I mean,
Yeah.
even Walton Bus Garage period would be okay, but Delaware Street, I don't think there's any need for anything else, right?
Right.
Okay.
Who really knows the numbers on Delaware Street? Anybody?
207.
Well, you would know the bus garage, but anybody else? I don't.
not really.
Delaware Street, it's next to, it's by the, right?
Yeah.
That's how we communicate and find a way around.
Mhm. So it gives you an address. You know this address? Who are you looking for?
220.
Exactly,
Is
right?
it 220? It's 220.
It's 220 Delaware Street, but,
You can add that if you want, Scott, that's
but
fine.
like you said, Walton Bus Garage is what,
Yep.
it's our main voting site.
Okay, Meg, next.
We just want to give a brief update on the capital outlay project, the flooring and the music suite.
Yeah, everything is just about complete, other than the smoke heads and those 2 tiny storage rooms. That's, we've got our own stuff to do, you know. We got some cleanup and some touch up on the walls, a little more painting to do. And other than that, I guess it's about done. It really looks good, and I'm impressed with all 3 contractors that came in. Really am.
So if anybody, when we get done, if anyone wants to go for a quick walk, we can walk down,
Yeah, I want
see the space.
to.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, and I got tickets back today for the extra cost of the expansion joint. Because we thought the hours are gonna be too high. The hours did come lower, which is good news. And I pushed them to find a cheaper cost for the expansion joint strip, and they came back with lower cost than that. So I'm waiting for the final cost, but it's gonna be lower than what they projected for that ad.
That's good to hear. We kind of expected that in our first conversation, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, they still spent quite a bit of time on it, more than I thought they were gonna, but they put time in, so.
It looks good. It makes sense. You look at it, there's movement. I'm still, as I expressed the concern earlier, my concern is still out there, and something that we really should look into, in my opinion, is we've got, that's moving. It was not moving when we did those offices back in 2012, 11, or something of that nature. So that joint, for some reason, that area is moving. We just put an expansion joint, which will keep it from buckling, but we still have movement. And we don't know.
Where's the evidence of movement? I didn't see anything in the photos.
What's that?
Is it just the gap?
I'm talking about the reason why we ended up with the situation we ended up with to begin with. The reason why we had to put the expansion joint in to begin with is because we had movement in that section that was not there in 2013.
Okay, so.
We did a project back then and put new flooring in the office area that we didn't touch in this project.
Yep.
That expansion joint runs right through that joint, and that
Yeah.
area goes through and that flooring in there is buckled. So I know that has moved since 2012, but we don't have an explanation as to, do we have a structural integrity issue in that area that's going to give us
So-
longer issues?
The flooring didn't crack, correct, in that office space?
It, as close as it possibly could, correct? John, it's
It
heat,
didn't crack, but you can see the expansion.
you could see it, you could feel it.
So I guess it's just for seeing the photos and seeing the existing drawings, what I think happened was when that was installed, because it's a 1980s addition, and the foundation wall was poured a little higher than the slab, so it sort of has a bump to it. That was never ground down in that project, and you've had that. That expansion joint that I saw in the photos is about an inch, which is normal. It didn't seem like it's gotten any bigger overnight since 1980. And if you haven't seen a split in that floor since 2013, I'm not sure if it is moving.
Well, my point is that hump that was there, I went in before they sanded it. And that was right down through the center of where people were teaching, working. I walked through there probably 100 times, and that hump was not there. I would have tripped and fell. It was not there. So something has happened that didn't happen the first 23 years, 33 years since it was built, that happened in the last so many years. Now, we did have a lot of water issues. That's why the flooring was ruined there. We had the pipe issues with the trees out there that backed up into the music room and in the kitchen and in the locker room. That's why we ended up having to replace the flooring in there to begin with. So I'm just saying, the expansion joint's gonna take care of any flooring issues, but do we have more of just something I think as a facility community, we need to keep in our mind is we've got an area there that something has happened, something has changed, and maybe it's fine now. We got a expansion joint, we got a floating slab for that part of the building. I mean, I'm just saying something has moved. That's an awful big section to move.
Yeah, I mean, if when I start getting worried, one, the flooring is the weakest material out of the whole area. So that's the first thing that's going to break. And then you look for drywall or CMU cracks. That's to be worried about structural changes. Certainly, because if something's going to move, it's certainly going to start breaking some stuff. So keep an eye out for wall cracks, joint cracks, stuff like that. Be important.
All right, future conversation. Next,
And the only other thing was, I think that we should do something similar for next year, where we start to talk about what our 2021 capital outlay project would be, and we will incur some costs to plan it and get ready. But in order to get it done next year over the summer before school starts, we'd want to have that prep work done and go out to bid so that we can have work occurring in the summer. So, John and I have talked a little bit. He talked about doing another flooring project, possibly the special education room that we weren't able to do this time in the library. The square footage of those two areas is slightly more than what we did this time, so we may not be able to fit that in under the $100,000. But depending on the timing and the bidding and stuff, maybe we could, or I don't know if there's other ideas based on the building condition survey that we should look into.
There's asbestos in both those, right? So I think we stay on that track. My personal opinion is I just soon see it out of the building.
And,
However, we can get to that point.
and especially 151, it's not a health hazard, but
Right.
that room stinks, that carpet stinks, and you have to keep at it every single day with vinyl oxide, spraying in that carpet and keeping it vacuumed to keep that musty, moldy type smell out of there. Just, it's
We're talking
a
the
dirty
library.
dog.
Are you talking the library?
That's the special ed room.
The library
Special
too, but
ed.
not near as bad. It's the room 151 that Miss Williams is in.
Okay.
And that was, we tried to get on in this project, but the bids just came in too high. And the music room made more sense.
and that's the last of the classrooms in that stretch, right? Because we did the home ec room years ago,
Yes.
did the art room, so that's the last leftover in
Yeah.
that section.
And, the big thing is they're both there's access right there to both of those rooms in the courtyard for an asbestos contractor to come in and do that. You know, and Scott or Kyle, can you answer this question for me? Do we have to go through any more engineering fees on 151 because that was already done? So would that still be open? Is, I guess, the word that I'm using.
Open as far,
Yeah.
well, you'd be putting it back out to bid, right? Essentially, if you wanted to do that as part of another project.
Yes, but would we incur any more costs to that as far as engineering fees go? Because it's done once.
I
There's
guess it
some
would
minor,
only,
there's minor modifications to the drawing to go out the bid. The bid documents have the music classrooms as base bid, you know, and the other one, and A151's an alternate. So just some modifications to some contract language in there and some documents, drawings.
yeah, there'd have to be a little bit of that. And then I guess if you were going to package something else with it too, that would be something we'd want to consider. You know, or whether you do it as a standalone.
Would that have to go back to SED since it's using different funds and different voter approval through a budget?
Probably, but it
Yeah.
would just be repackaging it for submission with the right voter authorization and things like that.
Mhm.
And actually, if we talk to SED, they might, well, knowing the way they are right now, they'd probably make us submit the whole thing again.
John, we didn't touch the library floor ever. I thought at some point in time we did flooring in that library. Are we sure that that has never been touched? We might want to verify that.
Rich, well, a couple of years ago, Rich and I went through there and we pulled up different little sections of carpet. So,
I could have swore we did at least that computer area, if not the entire library years ago. I remember us moving
back where
bookcases
Rick's
out.
office is, you mean?
No, to where the computer lab used to be, or is. Let's just look at the history of that library to make sure of where we're at
Yeah.
before we secure it for that, because we did work in there and I can't remember what, I could have swore it was flooring, but I could be wrong. But let's verify with the history.
I think we're in there, you pulled the carpet up in the side offices. I may have this wrong, but the side offices still had the old tile in them. Or
Yes, they
under,
do.
or under the main floor did. I can't remember which is which.
Right. So
There's a piece in there that I
it may
remember
be, right,
showing
it
us.
may be a smaller section that
Yeah.
that has that major issue. Not saying the flooring doesn't need to be changed,
Right.
but it may not be as absolute
Yeah,
as we think, you know what I mean? May not be as complicated as.
I almost remember the side rooms being the only ones, but let's go through and look at it.
Yeah.
and then, yeah, Rich and I just went like 3 different spots. We rolled a quarter of the carpet up and verified that it was 9x9 tile, and that's all we did.
John, do you have a completed asbestos report for the capital outlay project?
No, I don't.
Okay, I don't either. I've reached out to, I think it's Rick from BOCES there multiple times because they did testing, then ATL had to do testing, then ATL didn't have enough information, then BOCES came back and did more testing. And he keeps sending me snippets and I've asked multiple times for that, but since he's contracted through you, maybe you want to push him on getting a full report because I don't have one that says where everything was tested.
What
Okay.
testing did BOCES do for us?
What we did was we did all the testing in both music rooms and 151.
What testing?
The asbestos.
I thought they didn't do that service and we had to go with a different company.
No,
This is different?
Rick took the samples and we sent them in because the cost of doing that was what, I forget what the cost was, but it was a lot cheaper than having ATL come in and do them.
So BOCES did the asbestos testing. It then went to ATL for design. ATL asked for information on PCBs and for lead, and Rick came back and said, we do not provide that testing services. So then the district signed a contract with ATL to come out and do testing. And during that, they identified some places in 151 that were missed for asbestos sampling. And then BOCES came back out and did that and then removed it, I guess, right? And I don't have any of that documentation to share with you as a district. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So all you want is just the test results from the lab, correct?
I'm just trying to get, I'm trying to get the test results and then what was removed so that you have it on record.
Yeah, okay. I think that right. Because
I have ATLs, I just don't have BOCES, full testing.
So I thought you was copied on all those emails.
I was, but it was pieced together and it got complicated for me since there was so many agencies doing testing that I asked BOCES to provide a full packet. And then I didn't, during COVID, I didn't hear back. I asked a couple times.
No problem. We'll get it.
Yeah, it's for you guys. I don't need it for my records, but I just don't want to leave you guys hanging 5 years from now and then look back and not have it.
Yep. Understood. Thank you for that.
Yep.
So on the 2021, we'll just get a better idea of the square footage. I don't know, Scott and Kyle, if, as we look at the square footage compared to this year's, if you have any thoughts about how we might tweak or scope the projects to get more square footage at less cost? You know, because I'm afraid that we won't be able to do both areas if the costs are similar to what they were this year.
Unless the main library itself, the main floor is asbestos free.
Right, and that's the other thing we'll have to
So
look
we-
at.
yeah, that would
So
be-
we'll look into that.
It's just
So-
the classrooms. and
Tomorrow I
maybe-
can actually do that because, the guy from the head guy at the rug fair or whatever it is, the rug shop is actually he was gonna be in town, and I mentioned it to Sabrina, and she's going to bring him over, and we're just gonna walk in the library and look. We'll verify everything. All I gotta do is take a pair of needle nose pliers with me and just peel up a corner of carpet here and there and everywhere, and we'll verify what's underneath that.
Because that would be nice if that was already taken care of in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Fit the whole project.
We did something in there and I can't imagine that we covered that with carpet and didn't remove anything, but you know,
We'll
we've
just
been
keep
surprised by other things,
working
haven't
down
we?
that path, unless, you know, if anybody has any other thoughts of something different that we should be doing.
I mean, and that priority could change too, depending on the capital. If the capital project goes forward and the bigger stuff is taken care of that way, then the capital project would make more sense to keep focusing on things like that. The only other one I think you mentioned years ago was inefficient windows that had lost their internal gas on them.
Yeah, the
Breezeways.
airbags gone out of them.
Yep.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Here and there and everywhere.
I think just my opinion, you guys chime in, but I think if we stay on that floor, those floors and the asbestos removal and get those things cleaned up, that seems like a no-brainer for.
And then that will
I
put
would
us down
get
if
the
we
asbestos
do
up.
those two rooms
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
coming year. I believe that would put us down to only 4 rooms that have carpet covering asbestos tile. And that would be
They're in
all
B
over
wing?
the B wing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
That may be, probably not, you would hope you could do 4 classroom size rooms, 780 square feet, and well, 30, 3,000 square feet. You would hope you could do all 4 to finish up for 100,000, but probably not.
Well, the bid for the for the 151 room, I just went back and looked at the alternate for that. That was about 50 with the new flooring. So, and that's just one classroom.
But that was with lighting and ceiling and everything.
True. So you could back some of that out. Yep.
And the library would be flooring only.
Yep.
It's already got a drop ceiling, lighting's good in there.
Yeah, we don't know what the bid environment will be this next time around.
That's true, for sure.
Yeah. And certainly when we bid it, because bidding it when we did, we probably saw higher prices because of the summer.
So what would be the preferred time, Scott?
Well, I mean, ideally, if you could bid that, over between like December and February or March, that is ideal. But then you've got to really hustle to get it done. On a 100K project, you've only got the 12-month window.
See, that's what I'm saying. Late.
It's got to be after the vote now.
Yeah, it's got, yeah.
Can we pre-approve
Right, we
that?
couldn't, we said we couldn't bid it before the budget was approved that
Right.
had it in it, but would we want to wait till the budget's approved, put it out to bid and do it quickly over the summer? Or wait and, I mean, in that scenario, Scott, you're doing it in the spring when school's in session, correct? So if the budget was approved today, we would have until December to put it out to bid, but then you have to complete the work before the end of June.
Yes, but if, yeah, so what, some districts do, like what we did with Morris on a recent project was, we actually submitted it to SED prior to the budget vote. So that when we got approval, but we couldn't do the work until the budget was approved. And then we went right out to bid, and then we, in the spring, and then we did the work over the summer.
Right.
And that's what we did, but you're saying that that's desirable and not desirable and drives the cost up.
Well, I'm saying, we bid this project in August, July, late July, August timeframe, which is right in the midst of all the contractors being extremely busy. If you're bidding it in the spring, that's a little bit easier for them.
So when you say spring, you're referring to after the budget vote or after SED approval?
Both.
Okay.
You have to, so what I was saying, like with Morris, what we did is we actually submitted that project in February to SED.
So you're really in June where you can put it out to bid because the budget doesn't get approved until the end of May.
It gets approved, May 15th, so you're bidding it in, you put it right out to bid immediately after that, like the next day you're ready to go kind of thing.
Okay.
That's
Now,
one option. You don't have to do that. You could bid it in the fall, but then when do you do it? Do you do the work? Then you got to do it while school is in session. So,
We all want summer.
I would try to get that on as proactive as we could.
So we do like we did last
Yeah.
year. Get it submitted,
Yep.
get it approved, and be ready to go out to bid with it as soon as the vote.
May 16th, be ready to hit it.
I think that, and I think Mike said it to me once here, we don't want any asbestos removal work when there are students on campus.
Well, that's certainly not ideal.
No, certainly.
No.
it's never mind us. Now, Scott, okay, let's just take room 151, for instance. Is there some way, because that's already been approved through SED, that is still kind of open? Is that the word that I'm looking for?
well,
Yeah.
well, the issue is that you don't have the funds for that now because you've used the $100,000 funding that you approved last spring to do the band rooms. So there's no funding for that. So if you wanted to do another 100K project and do that room and maybe something else, you would still need to submit it back to SED with the new funding sources. And it's mainly a paperwork issue. The new funding sources and all of that.
Right. Regardless, it may process quicker.
Yeah.
If they, especially if they identify that this has been,
Yeah.
they've seen it once
Because it
before,
has,
everything's been worked through. They didn't flag anything. So
Right, exactly.
But it's got to be resubmitted.
Right.
Anything else, Meg? Good.
I'm good.
And more than likely, you'd add something to that too. So
Yeah.
that would be something new that SED would look at.
Anything else from anybody? If not, we'll close it and go for a walk.
Sounds good.
Right.
I'll say, once again, great work, everybody involved, because honestly, I have high confidence in this project, and it's because everybody working on it so diligently. So thank you, everybody, of course.
Is the public forum next week, does that begin at 6 or 6:30? Do we know?
Rick, can you pull that up? Rick, can you pull up go right to the webpage?
I have it on my calendar twice. I have it 6 months, 6:30, so I'm not.
Well, let's go right to the project.
The invite from you says 6.
Yep.
Okay.
that's
I
right.
got 6.
6 o'clock, Scott.
6 o'clock. All right, great.
So have you checked out our tab on the website?
I just saw that it was up today and I haven't had a chance to go through it yet, but I was gonna look at it now, actually, when I get out of the meeting.
It's got all the details, it's got the video, it's got everything.
Yep.
Changed it out with your board. We will be adding the newsletter. Everything is right there. Q&A is up, everything's up.
Okay,
It's
great.
been up for over a week, right? I think. So,
I'm gonna resave this PowerPoint with that one slide that we changed, and I'll send that to Meg so everybody has it.
yes, thank you.
Thanks,
Have a good
everybody.
Guys.
We're going down to the music room right now. Get down there.
I mean,
Night.